Hello everyone and welcome to the Week 14 Recap Show. This week we had playoff hopefuls make their case, some big-time running back performances, and the dust is finally settled on those conference championship games. We'll get into all of that, but before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos here on the channel. It really does help us out. And stick around to the end of the show to find out how you can become a part of the ONIT family and submit your hits so we can share them with the rest of the community. We'll get into that later, but let's begin by talking about what's in the box. What's in the box? Our Week 14 ONIT Recap Box features our locally sourced but nationally relevant headlines for all of our ONIT teams, including the 6 ONIT versus ONIT matchups we had this weekend. We'll also look at who made the grade over the Black Friday and Saturday performances, and we'll finish off by taking a look ahead at how these conference championship games have lined up for us going into Week 15. Let's begin by talking about our Friday night barn burner down in Austin. This result changes everything. Yes, that's right. We're talking about Texas beating Texas A&M 27-17 to hand the Aggies their first loss of the season as Texas A&M falls down to 11-1, 7-1 in the SEC conference, while Texas improves to 9-3, 6-2 in SEC play. For the Texas Longhorns, is this the game that clinches their playoff spot? That's the question that we are going to have going into the college football playoff selection show. They will not play in the SEC championship game, but they just beat the number 3 team in the country, something that nobody else did. So can they get into the playoff based on this result? The fact that they played Ohio State very close in Week 1 and the smattering of other wins that they have over potential playoff teams. You look to that win in the Red River rivalry over Oklahoma. That's another potential win where the committee is going to have a hard time leaving Texas out of this 12-team playoff. And on the other side, Texas A&M now will not be playing in the SEC championship game. It was a win and in scenario for the Aggies. They could not get it done on the road in Austin, and now their playoff fate rests in the hands of the committee, although they should be in regardless of the fact that they won't play in the SEC championship game. But their seeding is going to take a hit. They might fall down into having to play in the first round of playoff games, which they should get to host. But either way, this is a huge blow for Texas A&M, who thought that they might go into the playoff getting a bye and thought that they would win maybe a potential SEC conference championship. Neither of those things look likely to happen. The SEC championship is clearly off the table. Marcel Reed played okay. Same with Arch Manning. The quarterbacks weren't really the story of this game. It was the defenses for both teams. Massive interceptions for Texas when they needed them most. Less than 4 minutes to go in the game, and on Marcel Reed's final 2 pass attempts of the contest, he gets picked off in the end zone and then picked off at the 40-yard line after A&M got the ball back. Huge shutdown moment for the Longhorn defense, and then the Texas offense did just enough. Special teams played a big part in this game as well. Ryan Niblett and KC Concepcion returning punts that helped get their team in favorable field position, but at the end of the day, it was the Texas defense that came through to secure this win for the Longhorns. And now, for both of these teams, it's up to the committee to find out where they're going to be seated headed into the playoffs. Iowa State managing to go into Stillwater and get the victory over the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Iowa State finishes the regular season at 8-4, 5-4 in the Big 12, with an opportunity to finish their season with 9 wins if they can win their bowl game, while Oklahoma State falls to 1-11, 0-9 in the Big 12. Obviously, a full-on disaster season for the Cowboys. They don't win a game in the Big 12. They don't beat an FBS opponent. Just a really unfortunate season overall. They improved dramatically over the last couple of weeks of the season, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Stopped giving up a ton of points per game. Able to hold Iowa State to just 20 points in this game as Rocco Beck threw for a touchdown. Abu Sama busted off a long touchdown run. Those were the differences in this game, as Oklahoma State was only able to get the ball into the end zone one time. That happened in the second quarter. Oklahoma State will be hitting the reset button next year. It'll be interesting to see how they look. Just hired a brand new head coach who is supposedly a quarterback whisperer. So can Oklahoma State bring in some great quarterback talent and potentially elevate their play in the Big 12. That's what Cowboys fans have to look forward to over the offseason, while Iowa State will await their bowl announcement and try to win a ninth game. Only 4 times in a season has Iowa State won 9 games in a year. Last year, they finished the season 11-3, as many of you may remember. So the opportunity to win 9 games for just the 5th time in program history is a pretty big deal for the Cyclones, and we'll find out what bowl they go to after this win, 20-13 over Oklahoma State. I think if you told most people that a Missouri quarterback would go 4 for 7 for 25 yards in a game against Arkansas secondary, you would expect that team to lose the ball game. Not the case. Missouri wins 31-17 over Arkansas as the Razorbacks finish their season off without a conference win. They go 0-8 in the SEC, finish the year 2-10. Things fell apart for Arkansas in the one-score games this year. That's the big difference between them finishing 2-10 and them potentially going bowling. As it is, though, they go winless in SEC play, while Missouri goes 8-4, 4-4 in the SEC. As I said, Bo Prabula, 4-7 for 25 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and yet Missouri still wins this game on the back of Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts, and even, honestly, the legs of Bo Prabula. Here's the stat lines. Ahmad Hardy, 27 for 157 and a touchdown. Jamal Roberts, 11 for 100 and a touchdown. Prabula, 16 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. They ran for, in total, 322 yards, did Missouri on Arkansas. And when you can put up numbers like that on the ground, who needs to throw the ball? So Missouri able to get this win. It was close at the half. It was actually 17-14 Arkansas, as Missouri couldn't get much going on offense, as you could see by the Prabula struggles throwing the football. I mean, he only threw it 7 times because the ground game was working so well. But in the second half, Missouri just came out, blitzed Arkansas, outscored them 17-0 to win this game 31-17. Both KJ Jackson and Taylon Green played at quarterback for Arkansas in this game. Jackson went 11 of 17 for 126 yards and a touchdown. Green went 6 of 13 for 59 yards. Both of them carried the ball, not effectively though. Jackson 4 for 14, Taylon Green 8 carries for 4 yards. Mike Washington bottled up 11 carries for 50 yards. Just not an easy game for the Razorbacks to run the ball. Missouri has one of the best run defenses in the country. That was on full display in this game, and the Tigers will be excited to find out what bowl they're going to be playing in a couple of weeks. On a day where John Mateer was not at his best, the Oklahoma defense may have saved Oklahoma's playoff hopes as they win 17-13 over LSU. The Sooners improved to 10-2, 6-2 in SEC play, while LSU falls to 7-5, 3-5 in the SEC. And the Tigers were up in this game. They carried a late lead as Oklahoma was struggling to score touchdowns in the contest, but a long play to Isaiah Satania from John Mateer on a broken coverage led to an Oklahoma touchdown that gave them the final lead in this game, and the Oklahoma defense stood tall. The Sooners were able to keep LSU out of the end zone, except for just but one time in this game. They had an amazing red zone interception early on in the contest that kept points off the board for LSU, and at every twist and turn, it seemed like the OU defense was ready to stifle whatever LSU threw at them. While LSU had their opportunity to get this upset, would have more than likely kept Oklahoma out of the playoff. But again, being unable to convert in the red zone, put some points on the board, really cost the Tigers. Michael Van Buren finishes 14 of 25 for just 96 yards, a touchdown and an interception. No running room for Caden Durham either. He goes 6 carries for 42 yards. Harleen Berry, 14 of 23 on the ground. He had the most carries for LSU in the contest, but there was just no running room. That's been the story all year for Oklahoma. They hold LSU to 85 yards rushing, and now the Sooners should expect to find themselves in the college football playoff. We'll see where they land when the selection show comes out, but a great season for Oklahoma, and now they await their fate. Run the ball, give him the ball, whatever you want to call it. Florida takes down Florida State in this rivalry matchup, 40-21 behind the legs of Jaden Baugh. He had a career-high 266 yards to go along with 2 touchdowns, carried the rock a ton of times. He had himself quite the day on the ground as Jaden Ball got himself 38 carries in this contest, and Florida kept Florida State from becoming bowl eligible as the Seminoles lose every road game they play this season. They went 0-5 on the road. Just needed one win to become bowl eligible, going into the Swamp to face off against their bitter rivals, Florida. Unable to get it done. Tommy Castellanos, 17 of 28 through the air, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He was also the team's leading rusher with 19 carries for 77 yards and a score. Castellanos was trying to do it all, but the Florida State defense had no answer for Jaden Baugh. As we said, 38 carries, 266 yards, averaged 7 yards per tote. His longest run of the game was only 22 yards, but they just kept hammering away at that Seminole defense, picking up 4 or 5 yards every time he touched the ball. And at the end of the day, Florida managing to come out with a victory. So the Gators finished their year 4-8, 4-2 at home in Gainesville. They will not be going to a bowl game. Instead, they will be putting their eyes on their head coaching search, while Florida State will be upset knowing that they missed out on a bowl by just 1 game and finishing the year at 5-7. The streak is finally over. Ohio State has done it. They beat their most bitter rival, Michigan, on the road in Ann Arbor, 27-9. That Buckeye defense, like has been the case all year this season, comes and shows up in the big-time clutch moments. They do it again here in the 27-9 win. Michigan unable to get the ball into the end zone even a single time in this game against the Ohio State University. Julian Sayin putting on mostly a clinic. Did throw the 1 interception, but outside of that was pretty spotless. 19 of 26, 233 yards, and 3 touchdowns through the air for Sayin. He connected with Carnell Tate. He connected with Jeremiah Smith. He even connected with Brandon Innes. 4 passing scores. And then Bo Jackson putting the team on his back with 22 carries, 117 yards, moving the ball when things were getting tough for Ohio State, kept moving the chains, kept producing first downs when the Buckeyes needed them. It allowed Ohio State to play the ball control game. Michigan had to have this win if they wanted to play in the Big Ten championship game and play in the college football playoff. Both of those hopes have been dashed for the Wolverines as they finished their year 9-3, 7-2 in the Big Ten during the regular season. It'll be fun to see what matchup they draw when the Bulls are released. And for Ohio State, they secure their spot in the Big Ten championship game against Indiana. They go 12-0 in the regular season, 9-0 in the Big Ten. They will be going to the college football playoff no matter what happens, win or lose against Indiana in that Big Ten championship game. Here's a look at the rest of our ONIT teams and how it shook out this week. Number 10, Alabama on the road at Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn sneaks out the 27-20 win. This game came down to the final drive, but a huge forced fumble gave Alabama the opportunity as Deontay Lawson jumped all over it, and the Crimson Tide were able to put Auburn away, punch their ticket to the SEC championship game against Georgia. Tennessee fell at home against number 12 Vanderbilt. For the Volunteers, this was their opportunity to get into the college football playoff, but unfortunately for them, Diego Pavia ran that opportunity out of the building with him as Vanderbilt takes down Tennessee. Tennessee will go bowling, though, but it's not the college football playoff aspirations that they had hoped for. USC managed to beat their in-city rival, the UCLA Bruins, 29-10 in a game at the LA Coliseum. It was close going into halftime. Second half, all USC as they managed to pull away. Arizona State lost to Arizona. An unfortunate loss for the Sun Devils at 23-7 as it forced them to miss the Big 12 Conference Championship game and effectively end their playoff hopes. Boise State with a huge comeback win over Utah State, 25-24 the final score. The Broncos stay alive in the hunt for the Mountain West Championship. Whether or not they are playing in that will be determined later on Sunday due with some computer rankings that will come out sometime in the morning or early afternoon. Meanwhile, Kansas was springing for an upset against number 14 Utah. They were unable to pull it out. A couple of costly red zone interceptions, including one that was returned for a touchdown, doomed the Jayhawks in this game and will keep them from becoming bowl eligible. For Kansas State, they did become bowl eligible behind our boy Joe Jackson. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite players to watch here for the Wildcats. Another 3-touchdown day for him as they win 24-14 over Colorado and get to 6-6 so that they can go bowling. Nebraska suffered a hefty loss at the hands of Iowa. Emmett Johnson tried to do it all for the Cornhuskers in this game. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get it done as Nebraska falls 40-16 at home against Iowa. Penn State did pull out a victory on the road at Rutgers. This was a wild back and forth game. Defenses did not exist, it felt like, for a majority of this contest. 40-36, Penn State wins the game. They become bowl eligible. What a massive turnaround for the Nittany Lions after starting their season 0-6 in Big Ten play and 3-6 overall. They get to 6-6. They will be going bowling this year. South Carolina fell against Clemson, an opportunity to upset their rival and hand Clemson a 500 season. Couldn't come to fruition as they lose 28-14 at home in the Palmetto Bowl. For Washington, they kept it close against Oregon, but end up falling 26-14. Another bitter rivalry game here, but the Huskies just could not get the stops that they needed on defense to keep Oregon out of the end zone and give the Huskies a chance to win this ballgame. And lastly, West Virginia needed a couple of wins to end their season to go to a bowl game. Very hard to ask when you go up against this type of Texas Tech team. Texas Tech rolls here 49-0 for the Mountaineers, who will not be going bowling this season. Let's see who made the grade during rivalry week as we move into our week 14 grade. This is Making the Grade, where we share the best performances from the weekend in college football for all of our ONIT athletes. We'll have plenty of gravity cards showcased in here. And if you want to showcase your gravity cards so we can share them with the community, hit us up on social media with the hashtag ONITGravity. Let's begin with our near min eights. You know how much we talk about NIL for all here at ONIT. So we're starting on the defensive side of the ball and looking at Jalen Kilgore. Kilgore, a great game for South Carolina. He had himself 7 tackles, 4 solos. He broke up 2 passes from Cade Klubnik of Clemson, and then he also picked him off as well. It was the only interception that Klubnik threw in the contest. So Kilgore, even though his team lost, played very well in the secondary, and for that, he earns himself a near mid-8 grade. Moving on to another near mid-8 on the offensive side of the ball. This is Emmett Johnson for Nebraska. Yes, talked about how he tried to put the team on his back earlier. I mean, he really did that. When they only passed for 69 yards, he was called upon. He carried the rock 29 times, 217 yards, and a touchdown on the ground for Emmett Johnson. He also had 2 catches for 22 yards through the air. At the end of the day, it's 239 all-purpose yards for a Nebraska team that finished their day with 300 total yards. He accounted for more than 66% of Nebraska's total yardage in this game between all of their players. If that's not putting the team on your back, I don't know what is. So Emmett Johnson, even in a losing effort, deserves himself a near min-8 grade. Next up, let's flip back over to defense, and we'll talk about Michael Taft for the Texas Longhorns. It was him who got a crucial interception in the end zone against Marcel Reed to set Texas up with their victory over the Aggies. There were less than 4 minutes on the clock. Reed was looking end zone. Taft steps in front, picks off the football, gives Texas the ball with the opportunity to run some clock and get themselves the victory in this ball game. So for his interception, he earns himself a mint 9. Also had 5 tackles with 2 solos. On the offensive side, we talked about him earlier. We talked about him last week. He's back. Joe Jackson. I told you, he's quickly becoming one of my favorite players. After a 300-yard plus all-purpose yard performance with 3 touchdowns last week against Utah, how does he follow it up? I'll tell you. 26 carries, 142 yards, and 3 more scores for Joe Jackson in a 24-14 win over Colorado that got Kansas State bowl eligible. They probably should have won last week against Utah. Jackson was a big part of that. He was the reason they won this week, as he scored all 3 of Kansas State's touchdowns. There can only be one 10, though, and we are going to take a look at who that is in just a second. But if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future Making the Grades or any of our amazing episodes. Our 10 this week, though, is Kaytron Allen from Penn State. Running back heavy this week because these guys poured in some serious performances. Allen had 22 carries for 226 yards and a touchdown. He galloped his way to a long of 55. That probably could have been a 70-yard touchdown if he could have just beat the last defender. And that felt like it was the story of the day for Kaytron Allen. Massive chunk yardage as he carried the ball for 10.3 yards each time he touched it. And it seemed like there were a couple of times where all he had to do was just beat one guy and he would have had a 40, a 50, a 60-yard touchdown in this game. He was carving up Rutgers, helped Penn State become bowl eligible, and he crossed the 4,000 career rushing yards mark in this game. So for all of those reasons, Kaytron Allen is our Gem Mint 10 performer for Week 14. Let us know if you agreed down in the comments below. And lastly, let's move on to see who is playing in these conference championship games. The regular season is over and conference championship week is coming up. This is how it looks in Week 15. We'll go through all the conference championships here because some of them will have an impact on our ONIT teams. Let's begin on Friday night. In the Conference USA Championship game, you got Kennesaw State up against Jacksonville State. In the Sun Belt Championship, you have Troy versus James Madison. James Madison is a team to watch. They could steal a playoff bid if they win that Sun Belt Conference. That's a 7 p.m. ESPN game, so make sure you keep your eyes on that one. In the American North, Texas is playing Tulane. The winner of that game more than likely also goes to the college football playoff, so that's a game to watch. 8 p.m. on ABC. These are all in Eastern time as well, I should mention. And then Boise State, our first ONIT team, they get into the Mountain West Conference Championship after the computer rankings determine that they are one of the best 2 teams in the conference. They will host UNLV Friday night, 8 p.m. on Fox in the Mountain West Championship game. Then we get into Saturday's slate. In the Big 12, BYU and Texas Tech will do battle at noon on ABC. Loser of that game is potentially out of the college football playoff, so that's one that you should keep your eyes on if you're a fan of one of these teams on the bubble. We also have Miami of Ohio playing Western Michigan in the MAC Championship. Georgia takes on Alabama down in Atlanta in the SEC Championship. Another one of our ONIT teams here in Alabama will be playing 4 p.m. ABC as they look to beat Georgia for the second time this season. Then we have Indiana and Ohio State, a matchup of the 2 unbeatens in the Big 10. Ohio State, one of our ONIT teams as well. They kick off at 8 p.m. on Fox. And the last conference championship that we are worried about is Duke and Virginia. That is the ACC Championship. If Duke wins that game, it does open up the possibility of potentially 2 G5 conference champions going to the playoff. So that's something to watch. Again, if you're a fan of a team on the bubble, your team might get matched up with a group of 5 team, and that always helps your chances of advancing in the playoff. That's all the time we have for this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. Can't wait to be back with you on Thursday when we get into the conference championship preview show, and we'll recap it all on Sunday. If you want to share your hits with us, drop them in the link down below. It's also in the description for you. We'd love to see your ONIT gravity polls, so put them there and we will share them with the community. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you have a great week. Be on the lookout for the AP poll reaction video tomorrow, and we'll see you back here on YouTube on Thursday.